All right, studio time check 9:33 on 939 Solutions FM. My name is AYODEJI, LAFFY, and with so much pleasure, I welcome you to from the dailies on Solutions 93.9 FM, the very last edition for the week. And like I always say on Fridays like this, thank God it's Friday, the weekend is here again. And to do this with me, I have Comrade AYODEJI AJISOPE live in the studio with me.
Hey, good morning to you, my dear comrade brother. Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. I mean, we had some technical issues on the program yesterday because of the network, and we couldn't really dissect some of the issues raised yesterday.
And we were in the heat of it.
We're in the heat of it, but it happens. But thank God we are back together again today, and hopefully we'll have enough time to talk about those issues and any more issue. Now, looking at the papers this morning, I have the Nigerian Tribune, I have the Guardian newspaper, the Punch newspaper, the Vanguard, and the Guardian newspaper. Taking my first shot at the Nigerian Tribune this beautiful Friday morning. Actually, virtually all the papers this morning have things to say about the Ondo election, the Guber poll happening in Ondo tomorrow. And the first shot on the first page of the Nigerian Tribune, it says Ondo election, military deploys troops, IGP orders tight security. And riders on that, we have this one saying INEC distributes sensitive materials to 18 local government areas. PDP accuses ruling party of violating peace accord. It's an attempt to divert attention from your impending defeat, APC replies. And the last rider says, Damagum, governors lead PDP final campaign rally. The story can be found on pages 3 and 24 of the Nigerian Tribune. NNPCL reaches 1.8 million barrels per day crude oil production, denies stopping fuel imports. Okay, that story is found on page 7 of the Nigerian Tribune. Moving away from that to FEC approves 47.9 trillion naira 2025 budget, set to borrow 13.8 trillion naira, targets economic growth stability. Page 8 as that story. 4 deaths in Shaki linked to suspected Lassa fever, and still UCH is in the news. UCH still owing 392 million naira electricity bill. I mean, well, judging by 80 million naira bill, monthly bill, I mean, that's about how many months now? Over 4 months now. Looking at that figure, 392 million naira electricity bill management. Okay, away from the Nigerian Tribune, let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper. Crude NNPC Limited achieves 1.8 million barrels per day production, targets 2 million barrels per day. CDS to DIOs, Tinubu relying on you over national stability, food security. And still talking about the budget, 2025 budget, FEC okays 47.9 trillion naira. FG to borrow 13.8 trillion naira. Okay, Opebolo freezes state bank accounts, reverses ministry. And Riders, Awai was elected governor, gives ultimatum on cult clashes, bans groups. Pandef congratulates governor. On the front page of the Nation newspaper this Friday morning, course mates eulogize General Lagbaja at series of songs. Super Eagles qualify for Morocco 2025 Cup of Nations. Supreme Court delivers judgment today in State versus EFCC case. I mean, all fingers are crossed, waiting the outcome of that judgment, which will be pronounced today by the Supreme Court as regards the state and the legality of the establishment of the EFCC, and not just the EFCC, but ICPC too. Okay, Ondo 2024. FEC, okay, let me take that. Ondo 2024. CDS assures of security agencies' impartiality. While we step down for AYODEJI, PDP urges voters not to allow intimidation. APC, PDP accuse each other of violating peace accord. And let me take one more paper now, which is the Guardian newspaper. Let's look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper now. Okay, oil-backed loans. OPEC quotas threaten FG's 47.9 trillion naira budget plan. NCC restricts mobile network operators to 7 tariff plans from 369. Oil production to hit 2 million barrels per day in 2 months. NNPCL. Ondo Gibo election. Systematic distrust. Voter apathy. Economic hardship may mar poll. And let me take 2 more stories. Military, others will stay neutral. CDS vows as INEC distributes materials in Ondo. And the last one I'll be taking. Atiku advises Tinubu to focus on governance, not 2027. It's exactly 9:40 on Solutions 939 FM, and it's about time for us to go deep into the stories one after the other. My first shot is the Ondo Giver, which is coming tomorrow. I mean, the papers, military deploys troops, IGP orders tight security. I mean, with all this news that we always hear when we have a day to election about military deploying troops, IGP deploying troops, I mean, you begin to wonder, are they not painting a picture of a war-laced scenario? I mean, what is the need for all this large number of security forces for just a state? We recently had a presidential election in the US and people were moving freely. We recently had an election in the UK and people were moving freely. Even in some African countries this year have had elections and there were no large deployment of troops. So much that the CDS is even assuring Nigerians that the military will play neutral. I mean, do we need all that?
If I recall, in 1998, December 5, that was the first election that we had when we transited to civil rule. I cannot also recall the Abiola election of 1993. I can't recall the militarization of the processes. I voted at St. Patrick's. I remember I was where I registered. I had to come in from Lagos to come and vote in that election.
I remember vividly that morning too. There were no policemen or military anywhere. People were moving about freely. So when did this enter our democracy?
So that's why I went that far back.
Okay.
You understand? In 1979 too, you understand, it was only in 1983 that we saw the first militarization.
1983?
Yes!
Okay.
That was the first time we saw a militarization.
Of an election?
Of our elections.
Okay.
Under Shehu Shagari, and that was a direct activity of the police. You understand? Under Adewusi, it is on record that the militarization of elections was first occurred under Shehu Shagari, under the control of Adewusi. Adewusi was in charge of police, and Adewusi was not just in charge of police, he was in charge of security, and he was up to the task. So, and then the next time I noticed it was during the re-election of Obasanjo. I'm never going to forget. I woke up that morning, you understand? And as I approached our family home where we were registered, I saw military men, Nigerians, I mean Nigerian army. They were not only there, they were in battle fatigue.
I mean, that is what we see now.
They were in battle fatigue. And they wore camouflage. You only wear camouflage when you are in battle mode. And not only that, you understand? Apparently, they did not have enough vehicles. They rented some commercial vehicles, and they draped those commercial vehicles with it's a camouflage thing, like a net, cut in camouflage, so that you will blend with the environment. You know, the bush wilderness environment.
The type we only see during war.
And my spirit dropped several notches, and I said, "Wow!" And I asked myself, "Where will this take us?"
Is that not intimidation on its own?
Well, apparently, they will say they're providing security, but I've seen the end result. I witnessed the local government election in 2001 or 2, March 27. It was conducted by Oyo State under the watch of Senator Rashidi Ladoja. I saw the militarization in some parts of the state. And you see, in 20 years, I recall too that in 2011, soldiers were deployed. So in 2014 too. But when soldiers were deployed in 2014, it was certainly not under the instructions of the commander-in-chief. There were fifth columnists that could reach the GOCs and were using them to be deployed, you know, even against the commander-in-chief. I saw that clearly. So, you see, where does this come from? It comes from our history. Our psyche is still military dominated. Look at the inauguration of the governors. It still has a heavy component of military
presence. Yes.
And so also our national anthem. There are so many versions of it. I think it's this one that doesn't have many versions. The other anthem, it has many versions, and you will hear the martial note in it. Why? That's come from our military. And then you will hear even civilians. This election in Ondo, we have been hearing politicians say, we will capture Ondo. When we capture Ondo, we will take over. And you hear politicians talking like with immediate effect. And then the president has ordered. The governor has ordered. You know, that's language. That's not language synonymous.
Those are military terms.
Are military terms. And the governor has ordered. You instruct. It is when the president is talking to the military hierarchy that in fact, he issues instructions. It is the commanders that issue orders. You understand? He has instructed the army chief. He has instructed the navy chief. You understand? So we have a militarized psyche, and I don't know when we're going to move away from that.
I remember there was a particular election I covered. There was an Ekiti election. I think one of the ones that Fayose was participating in.
Yeah.
And I saw these military officials there. Some of them were even wearing masks.
The DSS.
No, they just even not the DSS. They were in camouflage, but they had this.
Yeah, they had this green
with masks. Then and I was like, this alone will intimidate voters to come out.
Election itself, the processes are designed to be transparent, and when you start wearing masks, that transparency.
I remember there was an election. I can't remember which of the states now. That was maybe Edo State. There were clips. You know, they will tell us that these police officers, these paramilitary officers are to forestall security and breakdown of law and order. But there were some viral videos that saw men of this uniformed men taking ballot boxes.
Into this particular election I'm referring to.
Taking ballot boxes, things that they were supposed to prevent, to protect.
I was in the motorcade of a state official, and it was these security people that were picking up ballot boxes. I was amazed.
I mean, let me read some messages here. Emma Akpasubi said, "Election is not war. It shouldn't even create."
In Nigeria, it is war.
Well, in a sane environment, it shouldn't be. Election is not war. It shouldn't even create opportunity for war. It is meant to credibly and peacefully get those who would be trusted with the management of collective wealth for the good of all. Until it is so seen, that is how security reinforcement on election days will be going on. The do or die mentality must die. Stakeholders going into Ondo State elections should all conduct themselves politically mature and deliver a credible election. Another comment coming from Olajide Arije. He said, with so much tight security, the security will still be used to rig and manipulate the results in favor of the incumbent in power. It's all over Nigeria. That has been the trend. I mean, these are minds, some Nigerians speaking their minds on this militarization of these elections.
Let me tell you what the situation is. Like the political actors, the security apparatus, be it police, be it DSS, be it the military itself, NSCDC, they have come to see the election processes like the politicians see it. A piece of the action. That's what they are having.
Okay, still talking
their own piece of the action.
Still talking about what should be the primary assignments of soldiers now. Let's leave the police out of it. Soldiers, if it were to be only police officers
to defend Nigeria's territorial integrity.
So what is their business with elections?
That is a big question. Well, number one, okay, we should be the held elections.
We already have a IGP had already deployed
35,000.
Imagine 35,000 troops for one state.
And you know the funny thing, where do you have the ballot boxes
for one election?
Policemen there don't carry weapons.
I see them a lot.
It's mandatory. They must not carry weapons. Now, where does the wahala start? She is in polling stations and collation centers, and they don't carry guns. So where do the people that carry guns are? They're on the streets, or they're even with political office holders, or the big men. On election day, you see armed, fierce-looking. In the last election that Omishori contested in Osun State, my dear brother, I was at the final rally. As we approached Oshogbo, my spirit was grieved to see the deployment of DSS. That was when the deployment of BSS officers and men were dressed hooded, only their eyes.
For an election.
For an election. They have been there for nothing less than 3 weeks. And my spirit was grieved by the deployment that I saw.
Okay, let's move away from that now. Talking about protecting the integrity, the territorial integrity of the country.
That's the primary assignment of the military.
Now, we're speaking about a particular issue, this new terrorist group, Lukarawa and Northwest, precisely Sokoto and Kebbi. Now, we spoke briefly about the emergence of that thing and how they got into the country. There was a report from the defense headquarters. There was a press briefing by a spokesperson of the defense headquarters earlier this week. Let's take a listen.
When those people came in, the citizens welcomed them. They did not report them. They thought they were saints. Until they now had a grip of them and started doing funny things with them. And then we started hearing. And we are now reactive. They came in just the same way we have something like Boko Haram. They're telling you the men should keep long beard. They're telling you the women must wear hijab and whatever. They're telling you the men must have jump up trouser. And so many other things like that. So we warn and we say, please, help us to help you. If you see strangers, this came as a result of the coup that took place in Niger Republic. Prior to the coup, we had joint border operations with Nigerian security forces, which kept these terrorists at bay. Now, when that coup took place and there was a breakdown of cooperation between both countries, the terrorists took advantage of the gaps in cooperation and made incursions into northwest Nigeria. They exploited the difficult terrains and made incursions into remote areas in our northwestern states. And when they came in, they started spreading their ideology.
Now, this talks about the porousness of our borders.
Damola, these are security brass hearts talking. And the thing that raced through my mind was that and when these people came in and they thought they were saints. For me,
is that not putting the blame on the civilians now?
Well, I don't even want to apportion blames. The trajectory.
Okay.
The people came in. Then they started, like you just told me yesterday, they started mingling with the people. They were acting as, buffer to deliver them. Now, the question is, you recall that retired Air Force officer, he was harping on intelligence.
Intelligence report. The importance of intelligence report.
How could that go on for 3-4 days? And the intelligence community, I will call them the intelligence community. They could be DSS, they could be police, they could be Defense Intelligence Agency. How come that went on for 3 days and then there was no intelligence? And I mean credible, verifiable intelligence.
And I heard that there's a Lakurawa militant, terrorist group, Lukarawa, that particular group has been living with the people for the past 2 years.
So, how come 3-4 days, no credible intelligence reached the local government headquarters? And how come that they can't claim not to have been, if they don't have intelligence regarding that? You understand? You see, when you have intelligence, you will be able to project with what you have that this is where this will lead to. That's why they say nip it
in the bud.
Now, I heard, what do you call his name? The NSA. Ribadu saying, you don't play with Tinubu. It's not about a person. Tinubu is not the office. You understand? You should stop doing all this pandering to praising a man. It's about the office, commander-in-chief. And you see, the man was talking about as a result of the coup in Niger. Repeatedly, I have talked about Nigeria-Niger Commission because I know someone who had been executive secretary and I know what they do there. We also are working with Chad. You understand? Nigeria has tried a lot to ensure, you understand, in terms of security. There is a joint commission. There is a Nigeria-Niger commission. Then there's another joint commission of Chad. I think Cameroon is part of it. Chad, Nigeria, Niger, and all of that. The issue of Niger, you understand, is peculiar. That was why they set up the joint commission. And I was saying to somebody, I think it was you or somebody, that it is about political will. Look at the consequences of the recklessness, and I've used that word advisedly. When the coup took place in Niger and some other Francophone countries, and our president was going around and acting as the West African security director and acting like the ECOWAS cop, ECOWAS sheriff, you understand? So they knew our weaknesses, and they would cut off power supply to them. And then we are doing silly things. You see, and I keep saying, the chief of protocols, COP, to Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a retired diplomat. And he has the heirs of the president. Mr. President, they completely ignored the Foreign Affairs Ministry. And the man was doing all of that. Look at the damage. Then they withdrew. Joint patrol. You are working together. You are sharing intelligence. And of course, when it is joint patrol, you are putting numbers, pulling resources together. And when you're pulling resources together, I mean, your impact, you know, is heavier. And that will act as even a deterrent. Because those people too will have intelligence that, they have joint patrol. You cannot penetrate. There is no space. There is no gap. That's working in synergy. You understand? I should have quickly gone back. They should have sent the diplomat, you know, those that in the, what do you call it, Foreign Affairs Ministry, there are desks. You understand? ECOWAS desk, Middle East desk, and experienced people who specialize in those areas, even speak languages local. You understand? They're the ones manning those desks. So we think Minister of Foreign Affairs is just junketing. No, they do the real hard work on their table. They do it. But is the presidency or president listening to them? In the days of Obasanjo, first time as military head of state, it was the External Affairs, it was the National Institute of International Affairs that was a think tank in the days of Bolaji Akinyemi. You understand? Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. That was a think tank. They thought they were doing the thinking in foreign policy for Murtala Obasanjo. And you know we had vibrant policy there. And you know Obasanjo was his own foreign policy man. He was his own foreign affairs minister. You understand? Though he had a Sule Lamido. Of course, if you want to do something, you have to fill a post that looks like it. You put a man that does not have the clout, and then you will do the job. The president is the number one diplomat. Our president was doing mismanaging. So it is intelligence that underpins security. And you have intelligence. You have credible intelligence. And then you have actionable intelligence. I mean, it's worrisome that the military are coming out to do what? To blame somebody? To hold somebody else responsible? To pass the buck?
Now, as we speak now, this group is operating in 5 different local governments in Sokoto State, and they are laying siege, not just siege, they are, I heard that they are going after smokers. If your hairstyle is not is inappropriate, they are imposing zakats and taxes on people, and they are now killing, because earlier this week about 15 people were killed by this terrorist group.
You know what that's going to lead to? My dad said it. Just watch it. Just watch it. Look, the foundation has been laid and well and solid.
And this group is well funded, and they have sophisticated weapons.
You know where they're from? The one they call Axis of Evil. All those Niger, the Sahel region. That's what they call it, Axis of Evil.
And now they are going on the street recruiting people, preaching their policies and their principles to people.
This is, maybe it was in the Northeast before. I kept asking years back, why was Boko Haram thriving? You understand? Why was Boko Haram thriving? If it does not have local backing, it cannot thrive. And if it has local backing, the military cannot overcome it.
You know, I intentionally raised this issue because now we say these people have taken over about 5 local governments in a state in this country. What has the military been doing ever since? Now there's going to be an election tomorrow. They are deploying large troops for an election. When 5 different local governments have been under siege of a terrorist group
violated
in the past 2 years or thereabout. I mean, how do we put this together?
They're now holding press conference, and the National Security Advisor is saying, "You dare Tinubu." I mean, is it about Tinubu?
Okay, let's leave the security issues for now. It's 2 minutes past 10 on Solutions.
That is now when we start asking questions. Is there Lukarawa in the military? Is there Lukarawa in the intelligence community?
You know, it was during the time of Boko Haram. We had some speculations that there were members of the Boko Haram, even in the military.
Maybe when Boko Haram captured those girls, and the Americans came in to help, this mode, the operational mode that the Americans had adopted to recapture the children, was leaked. They said they were going to gas them. You understand? They will wear gas masks. You understand? They will gas them. And then, of course, the gas will impact immediately and demobilize them. And then the next time, you know, of course, they carried out periodic reconnaissance, you know, area, not one aircraft. I mean, you just zoom in on them with
And just,
satellite and all that. They just saw Boko Haram wearing gas masks. Where did they get the information?
Then they now begin to wonder how
Americans
did they get
just
that?
packed their bags and left. That they were at risk.
I've watched some interviews of some military officers saying that they themselves they wonder how these members of the Boko Haram will know. I mean, they were laying ambush on them. That they wonder how they were knowing their route, their movement ahead of them.
The Americans just packed their bags and left. I said, wow, we are even at risk here. They just packed their bags and left.
So there is more to
And the
what we can see with our physical
president
eyes.
shouted, Boko Haram is in my government.
My government, yeah, I remember that statement.
So, are we fighting military battles, or we are fighting not just military battles, but we are even fighting against and within ourselves?
And I wasn't surprised when I saw this. This is Zamfara governor now. This particular governor that is pointing accusing finger to Matawale, to the defense minister, saying that he is the father of insurgency in the northwest.
So they will use one. You know, you are pitching. You pitch with one language, not preach. You pitch with one tool, and then your objective is there is actually another objective. I guess this is going to be not just, it will be a religious and economic warfare.
Okay, still looking at the stories on the papers this morning. On the
Maybe
front
the other
page.
one, Boko Haram means book is. Don't forget that Sokoto.
Formal education.
This is Sokoto and which state?
Sokoto and Kebbi.
Don't forget.
On the siege.
Don't forget that Sokoto is the seat of the caliphate. And they are preaching another version of Islam.
Yes.
That is looking extreme. Don't forget that the Sunnis are the majority, and the Sultanate is Sunni based. This extremism is Shia based, like the Iranians, like the Hezbollah, and the, what do they call those guys? Those in Gaza. In short, this is the extreme of Islam, and that is counter-sultanate. That's an extreme version.
Okay.
So let's see how the Islamic leadership, the spiritual leadership in
come into this.
will explain this or will interpret it.
Okay, let's move away from security matters for now. I saw this particular story concerning the NNPCL. Giving us a news that they've been able to achieve a 1.8 million barrels per day production of crude oil. But
I want the question.
The question. What is the question?
The question is it that they have stopped the stealing of 400,000? You understand, outrightly, or that they have actually increased production? You understand? Is it what's the breakdown of this increase? 400,000 being stolen has been recovered, and a little bit of addition. I mean, transparency. They should explain to us now.
But they are saying there that the 1.8 million barrels per day production has been achieved, which is quite commendable.
How
and they are also saying that they are denying the fact that earlier this week we heard this that no more import of petrol, but they said no, they are still importing petrol.
NNPC.
NNPCL.
And should be their players. Just like anybody else. They're players now. Dapman, Apeman, Petron, they're all players now. Everybody is a player now. But I think they have stopped playing referee now.
You think they have stopped playing referee?
They failed now. How can you be playing a referee? They failed. You know, it was looking ugly. It was looking ugly. We are not hearing anything about 385,000 barrels per day to Dangote crude oil. You know, there was a committee that was set up. And it is not a favor, you understand? Maybe the only favor in the transaction is that they fixed an exchange rate that will determine the price of the sale in Naira. There is a provision in the Petroleum Industry Act that talks about domestic crude allocation, you understand? And that domestic crude allocation is more important, is prioritized over, well and above export. But I think Guardian did a report.
Yeah.
About
that will take me to that Guardian report now. You know, I was thinking probably we should push the budget thing to the latter part, but let's bring it up now, because now we're still talking about the budget is about to be presented by the president maybe today, but there are hopes that he will present the budget, the 2025 budget, and there is a figure now, 47.9 trillion naira budget plan. But according to Guardian is saying that oil-backed loans, OPEC quotas, are threatening the FG's 47.9 trillion naira budget plan.
Well, what is our OPEC quota? Our OPEC quota is, I'm not sure now. But you see, what we use domestically is not part of OPEC quota.
Okay.
It's not part of OPEC quota.
And we are still paying back loan.
Oil-backed
loan.
Yeah. From a report, I spoke to an economist in Abuja, Kelvin or something, and I've gone through his YouTube channel, and he said, what, you know, NNPC first of all denied that they did not owe any credit or anything. You understand? You know, that was denial. Then when they wanted to increase the price of PMS, they were not paying their suppliers. So eventually, it was talks about suppliers. But NNPC has been branded as owing about $10 billion now. 10 billion US dollars oil-backed loans.
I'm trying to see the
OPEC
quota at the 1.5 million barrels per day.
Nigeria.
OPEC quota.
Said
Nigeria.
So if we have, so whatever we use domestically, is not part of our quota. Understand? That the quota is what we're going to be saturating, what we're going to be depositing into the open market. You understand? Our domestic consumption is not part of the quota, because if you consume 2 million barrels per day, and OPEC gives us 1.5 million quota. You understand? So I mean, your domestic consumption is not part of the quota. And you also know the problem with NNPC. NNPC is in joint venture with, you know, some of these, the one they call IOCs. There's what they call cash call. When there's need to do some work and you are supposed to provide money, federal government will not provide the money. Federal government will say, okay, use our quota, you understand, to supplement. Then they start taking maybe 5,000 per day, you understand. So, and I think this government has been trying to do, because cash call, you know, whatever business you are doing, you cannot be taking all the profits and spending it. When you make money, there is the one you reinvest. There is the one you keep for emergencies. Then the third part is the one you can spend. You cannot just say, this is my profit, backer.
But in the case of Nigeria, there is parts that you're using to pay back loans.
Yes, now.
Because now...
And that's affecting.
Even with this 47.9 trillion naira proposed budget for 2025, that budget is still saying that they will borrow 13.8 trillion naira.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, we keep borrowing.
We keep borrowing, but what are
Huge
we doing
amount.
with the, what are we doing with the money?
What are we doing with the money?
That's why the president went to that Islamic summit. When people are saying his house is burning, he's traveling around, I say the man needs money, and the man needs money, and he needs soft. You understand? He's looking for alternative funding to the Bretton Woods institution.
Need money for what?
You need look. Number one challenge in Nigeria is infrastructure.
Okay.
Part of the infrastructure, when you're talking infrastructure, you're not just talking roads, you're talking about power. Huge sums. Even if it is not going to be government that will be doing it, you understand? Government institutions, financial institutions will have to guarantee some of these things. But unfortunately, those who have the discourse, look, the generating side of our power.
But we've had past administrations that have invested, have spent so much borrowed money on this power sector, which never
Don't
yielded.
forget that this power sector has been unbundled for quite a while now. Those who are in the generating part, you understand? They are doing good, though. They are doing good in the sense that they are in business. This one, Adeleke, is building the largest power plant in Nigeria as we speak.
Okay.
Batenaji, they did not only do generation, they are even doing distribution. I think they Abba Power. They did not only do generation, they provided for transmission a grid. They had to do a grid, and then the distribution end, complete package, private. You know, Batenaji was at the time the power
minister, yes.
but he was blackmailed out of the position. This was a man that was brought from the United States, a power expert, and then they accused him of conflict of interest. He has a track record of being in the private sector. You brought him, and he had tried to divest, but still, vested interest. They sabotaged. So
they had to let him go.
Obasanjo bowed because they provided evidence in court that he was having a conflict of interest. Now, he did it privately, funding from the global financial institutions for them to have backed him. You understand? Now, 16 billion was alleged to have been spent by Obasanjo. What Obasanjo did was, Obasanjo threw money around in court, projecting, into the future. That is what we will need. Believing that there might be lethargy, there might be failure on the incoming administration. So let me lay the...
But let me ask you a question here. Now, you mentioned Batenaji. Batenaji, as an individual, sought for loans to establish this.
Yeah.
And it came into fruition.
Yeah.
Aliko Dangote, sought for loans to establish a refinery. And it came to fruition. Look at our refineries. So much loans have been borrowed in the past, spent into these refineries. Nothing is coming out. Look at the power sector. So much millions, billions of dollars loan put into that. What is happening? When a private person takes such loans, it works. When it is coming from the government, it doesn't work.
You know, I keep saying, apart from the general talk that government has no business in business, it's about transparency now. All the loans Nigerians Nigeria is taking, what are the terms and conditions? I keep saying, I don't want good governance.
And of what benefits have these loans been to Nigerians?
So when private farms headed by Nigerians and managed by Nigerians are taking it, and they are coming to fruition, and they are making profit, and they are looking good. So
now, Kuru Jeffrey says, countries in Africa borrow, and the money benefits a few, yet the burden is for all. I think that summarizes what we're talking about here.
Yes, no. They do deals. They do all sorts of dirty, nasty deals while they are working out the details of those transactions. And some of these countries know they're not going to get business done in Africa unless they do those deals. Look, the rail they constructed in Ghana or something like that. the rail line they constructed in Ghana, they said per kilometer, Nigeria's one was costing double. And then they will quickly explain, we are building on water, we are going to pay compensation. That's the difference.
Now, another one from Chibugo Henry. Continue borrowing to share among themselves, showing us how they are spending it on themselves and family members, leaving the masses poorer. Too bad and unfortunate. Another one says, okay, this one coming from Simon. Borrow and steal among the so-called political elites at the detriment of others. Nigerians are beginning to realize the fact that we hear this on the papers, so much money. Who are the beneficiaries? At the end of the day, we will be the one to bear the burden.
You go and borrow the one they went to, you go and borrow to build a red line from Ibadan to Lagos, and then it goes through Ido, goes through Abeokuta and all those places. That's not sensible. If you are building a rail line and you run it parallel to the Lagos-Ibadan expressway, do you know that people are going to move away from Lagos? And then you expand, people are going to move away from Lagos, and it's going to be that even between Lagos and Ibadan, there will be cities. You know, there are some cities now, they can call cities, Ibafo, Mowe, Redemption City, and all of that. You understand? Cities. And then all you have to do is that they will have to now do service lanes on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Like you have on Apapa Oshodi and Western Avenue. You do service lanes, you understand? So that there won't be disruptions on the expressway. And everybody will be, moving. The trains will be moving, you understand? And you go and build a train. If a train leaves Ibadan, you understand? And the train station is on the outskirts, maybe where the circular road in Ibadan starts, and then it takes them to Idu, and then one will stop, 1 hour, 45 minutes. 45 minutes. The thing will just run straight. Are people not going to be living in Ibadan? Would it not be better for me to live in Ibadan and ride train to Lagos to work every morning than living in Yanapaja, Orile Agege, and all of that, and spend 5 hours in
Now, when all these monies are being borrowed, is there no a body or institution that should scrutinize the purpose at which this monies will be spent on? I mean, to at least to scrutinize the importance, the viability of this project before they embark on spending such monies on them. Or they just borrow and somebody will just say, okay, this is what I want to do. And
people, it is bureaucrats that bring the ideas. The politicians will say, or even the civil servants will say, let us revitalize rail. They will ask the bureaucrats to go and bring how it can be done. And then some of the politicians will go back and tell them, and then they will do it. So,
and who approves it at the end?
The president now.
And he's not asking questions the viability or how productive is this project going to be. Are we going to be able to realize the money spent?
It depends on who is in charge. Unfortunately, Obasanjo initiated all these rail transactions, but he was not the one that concluded.
Executed it.
Yeah, he was not the one that executed it. Okay, what? Should be the one they built from Kano to Maradi. Maradi was saying they were defending it, that it is other West African countries that are benefiting, in terms of trade.
So how much is the country making from that railway to Maradi?
We should go and ask NRC.
And knowing the huge amount of money spent on that project,
I keep saying it.
For how long will Nigerians fold their arms and let this happen?
That's what, now. I keep saying these things
because now, if care is not taken, even unborn generation will have to pay.
I've used this phrase, especially regarding the oil for a loan thing. They ate Nigerians tomorrow.
The unborn generation.
They ate Nigerians tomorrow. They ate the fruits. And some people will pay.
Imagine using even the crew that we have not.
It's still underground.
Still underground, and you have already booked it to pay back loan.
They have spent it, not borrowed.
That is pathetic.
That is, you see, Nigerians, you move from lamentations Every morning I wake up by 5 a.m. the lamentations start on air. Every day.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Not just on air.
Lamentation.
Even public transports, anywhere you
are
see
so people, it is enough. Lamentations. Okay, where has the lamentation taken us? And then some people throw their arms up and then they pass it back to God. And I say to them, anything God has empowered you to do by yourself, He will not do for you. You are hungry. He has provided you with a head, with substance in it. And when you do the thinking, He has enabled you with a physical body that you can execute. You understand? Or, let me even take it, you have an account was opened for you. You have the debit card with you. And then money was not deposited. And you are crying of hunger. You access it. Access. And you have means of access. You will go and access it. People should move from lamentations to organizing ourselves. I keep saying these things. Organize yourself. Everybody has area of small expertise or knowledge. The knowledge you have in certain areas, deploy it.
Okay, as a round off on the program this morning, let's go back to Ondo in less than 24 hours now. The people in Ondo will be going to the polls to elect a new governor. And this report on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, Ondo Guber election, systematic distrust, voter apathy, economic hardship may mar poll. What do you make out of this as we round off?
You know now that our institutions...
I want us to focus more on the systematic
That's why
distrust.
I said our institutions. Which government institution do you trust? Is it the courts? Let me tell you, last week there was a burglary in a friend's office. A disused company. Security man there. And I say this without fear or favor. When the case was to be prosecuted, and they got to court, the security man told me that they're asking him to pay for the registration of the case in court. In fact, they asked him initially to pay for the cost of transportation, that he should fuel the vehicle that will take them from police station to court.
Interestingly, that has been happening for years.
I told him, I said, tell them that you have been trying to reach your bosses, your supervisor and boss, and you're unable to reach them. So sit down, let everybody look
and
themselves
let's see whether
in
they will
the
they will find something to do or not.
They eventually, when they saw that he was not going to do anything, they just sit down there and say,
Now, still talking about this systematic distrust.
Systemic distrust. You don't trust, nobody trust.
Do you know that a large portion,
I don't like it.
Some percentage of Nigerians, I don't want to use the large portion, still don't believe INEC as the umpire of a result. Still don't see INEC as being credible enough. Because I've engaged people in conversation. They will tell, you
see, I don't like that because it is a lack of, it is indolence. The first thing is you have to understand the processes. You understand?
Which are
the way they are. Deployment of material. You have to understand a process before you start saying it cannot work, it does not work, it has been rigged. You don't understand the process. You don't know it. Not to talk of understanding it. And you're coming to conclusions. Those conclusions are faulty. I tell people, I explained here on Wednesday how people other than REC, they're shouting in Ondo, remove the REC, remove the REC. I said remove the REC. Is it the REC that will recruit ad hoc staff? Is he the one that will deploy?
Well, you remember this same week we read a story about IPAC urging INEC, the umpire, to be neutral. I mean,
you see,
if IPAC is urging it's just like a body telling a referee of a match to be neutral. That means it's some negative signs are already.
The role of INEC is neutrality. Umpire.
That should be the primary role.
People should understand. I don't like all this general and blanket statements, just running our institutions are not trusted because people see them working for those who are in government. Look at the security. Look at Ribadu now, talking about an individual. We're talking about systems. You understand? Systems and institutions. But the systems and institutions are manned and run by individuals who want to pander to people who occupy office today. That is, and why do they do that? In England, you are not even going to see the person, the thing. You just know a system is, you are confronted by a system. You are not going to see individuals. Traffic light, para. You and you say Mr. Jamiu, Shebede, Honola Johnson, and all that, those silly things that we do. Our institutions. Look, let me bring it down in
60 seconds.
It is the elite. It is the elite that can make our institutions work and be faceless. But because they themselves are subversive elements, I call them subversive elements because they subvert the systems and the institutions for personal gain. That is why they are not going to make them work. Ordinary queue, you get there. And I say, this is a queue. Order was the first thing God established. So don't, okay, maybe senior citizen, yes, but no, order. So the people, the elite, are the ones that are responsible for failure of our systems and institutions. And the only reason why they will not strengthen it and make it work is because they themselves are subversive elements. And that's where they profit from.
All right, comrade, by the grace of God on Monday, but by then we'll have the winner of the Guibo poll. So we'll be here again to talk about the sounds and the intrigues that played out, that will be playing out tomorrow.
Our votes were bought.
Do you think they'll be voted by?
It has become part of the culture.
And
high-tech vote buying.
And I have a feeling that our politicians will leverage on that, considering the hardship. We are talking about Nigerians not sure of the next meal. And you now see somebody flashing 10,000 naira, and how do we say no to that?
Nigerians do not see themselves as stakeholders in this Nigerian project. So everybody's just looking for a piece of the action.
Okay, comrades, thank you very much for being a part of the program today.
My pleasure, always.
We'll be back again Monday morning for a fresh edition of From the Dailies on your number one radio dial, Solutions 93.9 FM. My name is Adedamola LAFFY, wishing every one of us a very splendid weekend. Good morning once again.
And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Man is a spirit and soul. Spirit and soul live forever. So let us love one another.